Cock 45 with a 1911. That's bait and switch. Whatever that other Civil War rifle you saw in the thumbnail. I'll explain. It's Halloween. There we go. I apologize. Life is good. Yes, Hickok 45, your internet shooting companion, welcoming you to Tennessee, the home, Buford Pusser, Minnie Pearl, Alvin York, and a weirdo like me on top of that, right? Yeah, bait and switch. You saw that beautiful Enfield in the thumbnail probably. And you get some ugly old 1911, plain Jane 1911 that I started out shooting with. Well, there's a reason for that. I really am just going to enjoy my Civil War Enfield today, P53, as I yak at you. Been threatening to do this for a while, haven't I? And it's a pretty nice day, probably a little early. Maybe the lighting won't be too bad, but rain is supposedly moving in, and it's going to be rainy for the next 2 or 3 days, you know, so I'm a little bit early this week, but I am this week. And well, I wanted to shoot this thing. I've had it for, I don't know, a week or two. It's the Tisas, or Tisas, I'm not sure how you say it. Tisas, we always say it. I'll look that up before we do a video on it. But wait a minute, this is a video. No, sort of a video, right? Yeah, disclaimer, this is a talking video. Get ready, shooting talking if you're new. But this is, yeah, their U.S. Army model, 1911 A1. And it looked pretty interesting. I saw a couple other people with it, and yeah, man, I'm a 1911 lover. And I love the U.S. Army models. I have an investment in 2 or 3, so 4, whatever. And it looked pretty good. And so for $3.99, I think, wow, I don't know how you might even make one for that out of pewter or you know, lead or something. But yeah, those were my first shots too, period. Well, no, they weren't. I shot twice before you got here. I don't want to lie to you on that plate because I thought, oh, it's Halloween, happy Halloween. Let's just you know, put at least a couple eyes and a nose, maybe on a pumpkin if I can hit anything with this GI trigger and almost non-existent sights, you know, the GI gun from here. But I thought, well, let me take a couple of shots and see if it hits sort of where it's pointed. That's kind of important because you have a margin of error on a pumpkin. You know, you gotta, you know, you just don't. You know? You can't make it up. You can't go erase it and start over. So anyway, that's what that's about. I wanted to do it before I got my hands filthy in black powder and muzzle loading. So I want to get a few shots. In fact, I might take a couple more so I don't shoot it after, you know, I get my head out here, right? So let me just empty the, I just brought a couple of mags. So before I get into my, I guess I'll start to say my favorite love here, but I like 1911s a lot too. So let's just take a couple more shots of this thing. Little cowboy. Not bad. I'll just reach out, see if I can reach out with it. Alright. Alright, not bad, huh? Seems like a good old gun. I got one more mag. Let me, with a few in it, and that'll be it. Yeah, this is, wow, talk about a budget 1911. Hog, yeah. Forgot what kind of ammo he was. So there's 3 mags through it, and you know, pretty interesting. It says model 1911 A1 U.S. Army right there on the slide. And it's got some other markings, and that's not exactly where the Army put the U.S. Army markings on it, but the finish and everything, it's not bad. It's not going to fool anybody that knows these things, of course, especially where it says where it was made, in Turkey. But that's kind of in small lettering and everything, so there's nothing obnoxious about the markings. And it's pretty close to being correct 1911 A1, USGS. It's kind of neat. What do you want for $400? Wow, pretty neat. So anyway, we'll do a video on that. I wanted to make sure it shoots. I was in the mood to shoot it, but mainly this. Oh no, it's the hickory nuts. They're trying to bombard me. You're gonna love it if one lands right on my head, knocks me out cold, aren't you? You'll love that. Everything's trying to blow away. It's getting windy. Oh no. But yeah, welcome to Tennessee, and glad you're here. Glad we're all here another week. It's what, week 96, I think. Yeah, 96 times I've come out, and I haven't missed a week, have I? Wow. I'm gonna spoil you all. Well, at least people that tune in if you care about it. Yeah, 96, that's a bunch. And ballistol and Talon grips, just everybody that helps us out. Need a supplier of mini balls, don't I? And musket caps, black powder, and all that stuff I'm using today. Now, I don't need one, but it's interesting that a lot of the stuff I'm into, it's not mainstream. Imagine that. A lot of y'all are probably the same way. Always seem to have interest in something that is not quite as common in the general public, but that's okay. It's what keeps life interesting. I'm slinging big old mini balls around, have been for many years, and a lot of people don't know what a mini ball is. It goes back to 1849, and Claude Meunier invented that in France, and it was actually different than this. It was modified by Burton at the Harper's Ferry, a guy named Burton for his first name. And this is really kind of his design, Burton, but we call it a mini ball. And that enabled you to load a rifled musket, rifled barrel, rifled musket easily, because the bullet has to engage the rifling, right, for it to spin and be accurate. And so with a round ball in one of these, this is rifled, it's got to be tight, really tight, where you got to cram it down in there. You have to put some force on it, probably patch it and all that to get it really accurate, because it's got to engage the rifling, be cut into the rifling, right? Well, these babies, they don't have to be cut into the rifling going down, because they got that skirt, and that expands, the pressure of the powder and everything behind it expands that out into the rifling, coming back out. So it goes in small, comes out bigger, kind of deal. Great. And they're fun to shoot partly for that reason. They're historical as heck, but they also are easy to load and fun to shoot. You don't have to fight them to get them down in the barrel. I happen to have one in here already. So is this gun loaded? I don't know. It brings up another topic, doesn't it? We'll talk about. It's got to have fire before it's loaded, right? So I'm going to put some fire on it here in a minute and shoot it. All right. Speaking of that, well, let me talk about that. Seemed like I was forgetting something there at the beginning, but it's okay. We have no script. Just have a few points I thought I might talk about. I have written down usually because I'm too dumb to remember. But yeah, the blank. I didn't talk about that blank situation, or that not Eric Baldwin, Alec Baldwin. That business on the movie scene. It's been hashed and rehashed, and on news, and of course on the internet over and over. It had just happened, when I was filming last week, really, and there was no real information about it, for a couple of days. Just conjecture, people, talking, acting like they knew something but didn't. And I've kind of held off on making comments. Some of y'all, you've been asking me about it, and I just didn't know enough. Still don't really know enough. We got a better picture of what happened, of course, now. But I'm not the authority on all that, other than from the beginning, and I answered a couple of people saying this because there were some people making comments about, yeah, pointing a gun at somebody, even though it's a blank gun or it's a prop gun or whatever and all that sort of thing. And, my comment was, yeah, maybe, but, in that zombie movie we did, I had to take my Henry, and, if you've seen that movie or the scenes from it, of me shooting and the angles from the front, shooting it and the brass coming out and all that. Of course, it was just empty brass. There was nothing in it. There wasn't a 44-40 round within 20 miles probably, And I'd driven to Michigan with the gun, no ammo anywhere. Wasn't going to shoot it up there, and just some empty brass is all I took. And because I was smart enough to think ahead and know that if we're going to fake shooting a zombie and work the action, if no brass comes out, yeah, even someone who's not too wise about firearms, it's not going to look very real, is it? So I did that, but in one scene, I had to point it. I was pointing it, and they were trying to do that close up, and the camera people and everything, they were right in front of me. It really was awkward. I didn't like that, but I mean, it's the movies. It's what you do. You point guns at people and shoot at them. I mean, the movies have been going on since movies have been around. And so I wasn't going to jump on that bandwagon about him pointing the gun at somebody. That's kind of a different issue. The issue is making sure it's not going to fire, of course, which how many times probably in all the movies, and whenever a tragedy happens, of course, and that's what we have to be careful of, it ends up changing the world and all the laws in every state, when a tragedy occurs, because it is a tragedy and extremely sad, extremely unfortunate. But how many times has somebody on a movie set, since whenever movies started being made in the early 1900s, how many times has somebody pointed a gun at somebody and shot a blank or whatever, or just pointed at them, a CGI or a blank, whatever it was, whether it was a prop gun, a real gun, and real guns are considered prop guns when they're used in the movies, I understand, but because it's a prop. It's like if you got a table or a flower on the table, that's a prop. Whatever you're using in the movie is that is part of the props, essentially. So that's a matter of semantics, I guess, in a lot of ways. So I wasn't going to hold that against him. I'm assuming, that happens. Well, my question: how many times, how many scenes has, since the early 1900s, has somebody pointed a gun at somebody and pulled the trigger and bang, because they got blanks in it or CGI or whatever in recent years? How many times you reckon that's happened in rehearsal, in scenes that didn't even make the movie, TV series, cop shows, westerns, everything, even movies, shows that don't normally have a lot of gunfire? Often there's a murder, to start the movie, if it's a mystery or whatever it might be. So, I mean, what would that number be? It would be in the millions probably, wouldn't it? I mean, really, it'd be an incredibly high number. And how many people have been killed making movies because there was a problem with the prop gun or a blank or that kind of thing? Well, we can think of some where it's happened, right? Brandon Lee and others, the young guy, Exeter, was that his name? I know back in the 70s or 80s, he put a blank gun up to his head, and it was a blank, but he didn't realize the power of it. I think up at in the filming of the movie, whoa, yeah, ooh, that's a persimmon. I don't want that yucky stuff in mine. Thank you. Speaking of being shot at, this is a persimmon tree right under, but in the filming of Gettysburg, which is a great movie, I understand there was somebody was hurt, I think. I forget how that turned out, but someone had a ball, like this, one of these rifles. Might have been one just like this, an Enfield, or an 1861 Springfield probably, and instead of a blank. And you tell me, did somebody get killed or somebody was hurt? I forget. But so you hear about it, but it's really just a handful, if that. since the beginning of moviedom and TVdom and all of that, So, it's like COVID is like anything else. If someone has a traffic accident, or there's 3 people killed in your county, you're going to shut down the roads. That's what do you do? There's people wanting to take guns out of movies, already from this. But anyway, back to the point. I'm going to shoot. I've already got a load. Can I shoot it? We need to know a lot more about it, so I'm not going to internet, cast aspersions, not being an expert. There'll be plenty of press conferences, probably before you even see this, that I haven't seen this week. So I'm going to put some fire on this thing so it won't fire blanks, okay? And take a shot. This, again, is my original pattern 53, P53 Enfield that was used in the Civil War, okay? Let's put another one on it. Well, no, I'm going to shoot that plate down there. I'm still trying to figure out where to hold with this one. It shoots a little, I got to hold low, put it that way. That was a terrible, I don't know why. I pulled down way low. The trigger was a lot heavier than I expected. But it was definitely a real ball. How bad is that? Missed that plate. But that's because I pulled it down. Like I talked about last week. If you ever done that, you feel like you're going to shoot your foot. Remember, I mentioned that because it was like shooting a flintlock. It was just crazy. It was so bad. But I won't be that bad. I want if I miss that plate right there, I want it to be because it's shooting higher than I thought or than I remembered, not because I jerked the trigger immensely. And so I don't know what happened. I was not going to jump on Alec Baldwin because he's like one of the most anti-gun people on the planet and all that. So it's real easy to just jump on him immediately. And I don't play that game. I really feel sorry for him. I really do. It's hard to feel sorry for somebody that you just wish wasn't around, being a big mouth about, firearms issues and all that. But, wow, that's just terrible. If he's responsible, probably it's in the area of, let's say and hiring your own people, because he was responsible, as I understand, for that movie and all this. And I mean, he may be ultimately responsible in some ways, culpable in different ways, but the other question I have, he was following the armor people. They may not have been experienced enough. They may have been hired on the cheap. I don't know. There's all kinds of issues to be explored, but we've been hearing about. But I would guess, here's another criticism that I've been seeing a lot of, and I can't decide how valid it is, to tell you the truth, that he didn't check the gun before that, and like we all do when we handed a gun, hand it back, we check, make sure it's not loaded. We're not insulting anybody, we're just checking for ourselves, right? And it's just the way we do it in the firearms community. In the movie world, I don't know. If you tell me, if you've been in a lot of shoot 'em up movies, or you worked on a bunch of the John Wayne movies, or any just any action movies you've had experience, I just don't know. They're focusing on their acting and lines and what they're going to do and all that kind of thing. I would think when it's probably just the way it needs to be, that when the prop people, that's their job to make sure that thing's not loaded, double, triple check, or it's loaded with the proper blanks or whatever. That when they hand that to somebody and say cold gun, I would guess, I may be wrong, that whether it's John Wayne or Tom Selleck or anybody who is really gun people, that they probably just went on with the scene and didn't like, well, let me make sure it's got blanks in it, and let me double check. Maybe. What do you all think? I don't know. My guess is, that's just why those people are hired. That's why they make good money, being an armorer, to make sure that doesn't happen. So I don't know that we can even criticize him that much for not checking the gun. I don't know. I would guess that's not standard procedure. Maybe it should be, but then I don't know, it's a different environment. You know, it's not like us out here on the range and we're shooting real stuff, and we'd better check each other's guns. You hand me a gun. But I just don't think probably in the movie world that's what they do. I don't know. So if that would be really weird, is my kind of my point. That might be a really weird thing to do, to actually check a prop gun when all these people have checked it. They're making big money to make sure all that's right, and they hand you that gun, say cold gun, you're ready to shoot the scene or rehearse it or whatever. For you to open that thing up and everybody's waiting on you to make sure that it's got the right ammo, it's got blanks instead of real ammo and all that, I would guess that doesn't happen. You think? I don't know. So it may not have been all that unusual, you know, to just take the person's word for it and point and shoot. I don't know. I don't know. That's why I'm not gonna jump on it too big in either way. I just don't know. My powder thing is loosening up. So anyway, it's really sad. My gosh, they're gonna have to live with that. So whatever we think of Baldwin and his anti-gun antics and all that sort of thing, wow. Can you imagine, accidentally or whatever, unintentionally, you pick up a gun and you shoot somebody you're working with, or a friend, a family member like that. You know, that's how do you get over that? You know, how do you get over that? So, but anyway, yeah, that's really bad, and it's a message to everybody. Hopefully some good will come of it. It's a reminder to you and me. We're used to messing with real guns. We know they're loaded. They're not prop guns, and so it's a message, a reminder to all of us, isn't it, to be especially vigilant and not get relaxed about it. And it's also a weird thing too. With youngsters. I was with John. I was when he was young. I didn't really like him pointing guns, squirt guns or anything at me, you know. And I was reluctant to. I think we did that when he got a little bit older, some, but because I knew growing up on a shooting range, he would be shooting real guns pretty soon, you know. And so I kind of steered away from that. I was almost like one of those crazy leftist parents, I guess, in some ways, but for a totally different reason. No, we can't have a gun in the house. Somebody pointing that gun at people. It's a gun. It's horrible. But for a different reason, because I wanted him and knew that he would have a 1911 in his hand when he's 6 or 7 years old, you know, a real 22, shooting an Uzi when he can lift it, you know. And so it brings up that question, doesn't it? And people vary in their, they differ in their opinions on that. By and large, they just need to know the difference, obviously, between a real gun and a toy gun, and always check it and know what they're doing. You know, it's probably going overboard to make too big a deal out of, you know, shooting each other with squirt guns or maybe even airsoft. I don't know. That's something for everybody to decide on their own. But mainly, we need to just really educate youngsters about firearms. And I'll tell you one valid criticism has been, and that is when you're in an anti-gun environment, probably most of the people working on that set, maybe even, you know, if he has hired them, and if he's rabidly anti-gun, you can imagine most people around him probably have similar feelings, that kind of thing. Those people are inexperienced with guns. They don't know the 4 rules of gun safety. They haven't had that probably drilled into them. They don't go to shooting ranges. They're not exposed to the culture that we are in terms of firearms. You know how it's just a natural. I lay this gun down, it's pointed down range. I don't even think about it. You know, they're not. And like I say, that Henry rifle I was using in the zombie movie, that was really hard to point that at those people. I mean, knowing they're right in front of me. You know, I kind of wanted to. They wanted to get that shot like that, and that probably wouldn't bother somebody who is anti-gun to begin with. They just think of it as a squirt gun, and they don't ever have real guns in their hands that they're shooting and have to exercise extreme safety with, and you know, that sort of thing. So anyway, enough rattling on that. Okay, now let me see if I can do it a little better. Okay, I'm gonna hold around the bottom of that thing. Okay. Yeah, that's a tough one. That's why I wanted to shoot. One reason I wanted to shoot it. I felt like I dropped the hammer. Yeah, I may have gone under. Surely it wasn't going that high. Let me load her up again. Surely it wasn't shooting over that thing from this round. I know it shoots high because I shot it yesterday, and so it's kind of dirty. That's one reason I wanted to bring it out again too, while it was dirty. And I had to hold on the bottom of the gong, below the gong a little bit in order to hit it. And so I thought maybe if I'm going to shoot some more, I'll get even a better idea. So these are wonderful old guns. I tell you, black powder is fun to shoot. You know, I've been preaching that for a long time at you, and it's even really incredibly special when you're shooting something like this that's historical and you know, was actually used. I bought this from a guy down in Murfreesboro. Larry Hickerson had a little shop down there. I think he's closed that up now. He still works off the web, I believe. But he had a Civil War shop down at Stones River Battlefield, Murfreesboro. And he said they knew it came from an estate in Chattanooga, and it was a Southern gun, at least as far as they knew. All right. All right. Of course, they were bought, the Enfields, if you don't know, they were bought in England and then brought over here. And they had to get across the blockades to get delivery. All right, let me try that again. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm doing this. I'm glad I'm doing this. Let's figure out what's going on here. Okay. I've got the sight. Yeah, got to set it on 100 yards. And I've got to be going under it. I've got to be going under it. Okay, I'm gonna hold up on it. I don't have a bigger target right there, do I? I may have to shoot something right here, figure it out. Put some powder in, don't get confused here. So anyway, good to have you all. Got off on that. Yeah, had several things might mention, like, oh yeah, the Hickok 45 song that some people hate. It's just a couple usually. Somebody made a comment about that. Oh yeah, it was on that. I saw a comment on that video, Hickok 45 song. It's called. It's you should have shared this earlier, whatever, you know. And I said, well, it's been posted for 10 years or something. Allowed to share it. I think a lot of people are not aware that I pulled that clip off of the actual video when Steve Lee and his daughter were up here, and we all wrote that silly song and made most of it. But then we sat out on a porch and they sang it down on my porch, you know, and we recorded the video doing that. You know, John played electric guitar with them a little bit, different things, but so you might, especially if you hate that song or don't like it, or if you like it, find that video. It's called Hickok. Maybe it's the Hickok 45 song, I guess is the title of the video we posted a long time ago, and that's where it comes from. And they're sitting on a porch, and it's Rachel and his daughter and Steve Lee and everything, and maybe it'll put it under a different light, you know, if you don't like it, because there's a live performance. It comes from a live performance on the porch, just recorded by the camera is all, you know, it's not a studio production or anything. And so just to remind you all of that. Okay. Now when you're having trouble like this, live in person, you just have to. Now normally what I would do is I would, if I was on my other range, I'd, okay, what's a bigger target? I gotta figure this, what in the heck is happening? And there's a lot of energy here, but it is a soft lead bullet. I'm gonna just move closer. Like I'm not gonna shoot at something and be missing very many times, especially something that takes this much reloading, without getting it figured out, okay? Figure out what I'm doing. So I'm gonna step up here. I might just shoot the cowboy. You know, I'm gonna shoot that plate. I'm gonna move closer. All right. Okay. I was probably going over it, like as I held on the bottom, and you see maybe where it hit, you know, near the top. Okay. I was just thinking that now on the gong, I was holding just, you know, down in the dirt, and it put one, you know, about midway. So I didn't expect that the closer range I'd have to hold that high, but that's good. The windage is right on, like it was on the gong yesterday. These are sweet, even though it's shooting 70 grains of 2F powder, and it is GoX, you know, which you can't get anymore. I guess I have a little stash of it, so I'll have GoX for a while. So, but anyway, as I was saying, these things are just special to be able to shoot one of these. And it may seem odd to you, it's a Civil War rifle, that I'm actually out here shooting the thing with all that historical significance and everything. You know, it's bought, you know, in London area, and then shipped over here. It has to get through the blockades, you know, to the Confederacy, and survived all these years, still works. But black powder is really, as corrosive as it is, it's easy on guns. The pressure curve is different. That's why you can still shoot these, you know, even with this age, as long as they're not all rusted through or something. So, you know, I clean them up and ballast all, and they're like, not new, but they're like they were before I shot them. So I've got the 1861 as well. Had them both out yesterday, and just so enjoyable. I've been meaning, I've told you all, to get some black powder action going in the fall before it gets cold, and by golly, I did. So we shot another one, yeah, that 50 caliber Hawken not all that long ago, and then been shooting these today, yesterday, and may even do another video today with one of these, you know, this afternoon. And so I got around to it, and really did. And you have to get your mind right of these things. They they're messy, as you know. Oh, I should have cleaned the bore, swapped it out a little bit, but that's all right. But they are fun, and just such a different sort of experience. All right, let's go ahead and throw one at the gong. Well, let's hit that plate first. I bet you I can hit that plate, okay? Now that I figured out a little bit about it. What'd I tell you? Just need to hold a little bit lower, okay? So, yeah, I'm trying to figure out where to hold on something we're going to be doing. But I don't want to miss too much. That's the thing. If you miss a few shots in a video, it's definitely not going to be a short video, right? Do I need to tell you that? What else was I going to talk about as I reload here? Gosh, probably nothing important. Imagine that. Anything I definitely wanted to know any more about John's comedy. Yeah. Let me go ahead and give the youngsters some advice. I bet I've got some. Well, I guess my advice is try to get into a career that you enjoy. Don't base it just on how much money you're going to make, although that's important. But try to get yourself launched into something. It may not be your first job, but be working towards that. Maybe your first job is great training for it, whatever you really want to do, or what you eventually want to do, you know, within 5 years or something. And you need to do something, save some money and get some more education, whatever it might be. But be working towards it, and try not to just float along, you know. And one thing that really causes a lot of people to float along and never change course or get anything accomplish they always wanted to is they get in debt early. There's a lot of stuff that people think they have, they can't really afford, end up with a bunch of debt, bunch of payments, and they just got to make sure they get to work the next day. They can't be taking a class. That's going to take extra money to drive to the campus, or money, gas or something. If you can avoid debt, avoid spending all your money, so you do have options. You have choices. Save. That'll give you some choices, some options. You know what? I didn't clean that, did I? That's all right. So that's my advice, because if you're doing something you enjoy, it's not like you're working, really. Obviously, what I've been doing the last 10 years, we're doing this, that's what, eight exclusively this, is like not working, right? And then even when I was teaching, it was, I never dreaded going to work. I was in good teaching situations both times. And I don't remember a Monday morning, I thought, oh man, I don't want to go work. They just can't. I never did. For one thing, you've got to be prepared. You got to have your plans ready, know what you're going to be doing. So I was busy thinking about that, but I never really dreaded it. I kind of looked forward to it, and it was kind of exciting. In the morning, here come, and you got to be ready. It's like catching a flight. They're not going to wait on you. You've got to be ready. And when those, in my case, it was usually like 15 or 20 youngsters start coming through the door, first period, I got to know what I'm going to do and be ready, and all day long. And but I enjoyed it, and obviously I've talked about some of the negatives, but you got that with everything, and I enjoyed it. So that's my advice: do something you like, even if it takes you 8 or 10 years to get into it. Something that'll be enjoyable and creative, and it won't be perfect. It won't be perfect. You'll find yourself working with at least one idiot, probably, right? Even worse than I am. All right, are we ready to try the gong? Yeah, I can't tell where I hit for all the smoke. I might have held too low, or I might have held too high. It's hard to know, isn't it? So in that case, what I'll do is I will, on this shot, I didn't see anything hit the leaves. You might have, but with the smoke, you don't see anything. That's what makes these harder to sight in. Come on, there we go. Put a little bit of ballast oil on that. Don't want to get too much oil down there. Just help cut through some of that. So since I didn't see anything, I don't know. I'm going to assume I went a little high. And as you've seen me do before, it's harder with this because there's so much time between shots, but I'll hold significantly lower, and so that maybe I'll see it in the leaves if I hold too low, or I'll hear that sound I want to hear, right? There we go. You gotta be careful, as I've said before. If the bore's really dirty, you run a dry patch down there, you may not be able to get it out very easily. This bore on this one is not in the best condition. It's okay, but it's not. It's worn, and my Springfield 1861 has a really nice bore in it. This one is worn, and in fact, it won't shoot some of the smaller mini balls as well. Like the Pritchett ball, I tried to shoot in it. That, oh gosh, the YouTuber guy that makes the cartridges for me, he made me some. I bought from him. I think it's not Ghost Rider, something Ghost. Sorry, I couldn't remember the name. But did I put powder in? I didn't do that, no. And so the Pritchett ball wouldn't, and they're smaller. They just were tumbling in this thing. And that's why in the video we did about those cartridges, I had to use my reproduction Enfield, okay, with the new bore, right? So doing? I'm trying to run a patch. I shouldn't have to dry that out. I didn't have much oil on there. So I guess I ought to be careful. I keep you all day doing this. Anything else y'all are dying to know about? Wasn't that video cool of that Marine that intercepted the two robbers in the market or the store? Did y'all see that? That was great. He reacted just immediately. If you didn't see it, the two perpetrators come into the market and he's standing there with something he'd bought in his hand. But the guy, they're pulling out a gun, ordering, I don't know, people get their hands up or whatever they were saying. And he's standing there, he turns around, he just grabs the guy's arm and the gun and punches him. It was great. All happened so fast. Don't you love it when that happens? You know, when somebody gets what they deserve right away. Because so often, people don't get what they deserve. They just keep on doing that stupid stuff. Yeah. So anyway, there's always a bright spot, right? Make sure you're staying in touch. You know, it's a crazy world we live in right now with your representatives. Let them know what you think about everything. Gun control, all the totalitarianism that's been coming our way, whatever the issue is, and whatever your stance is on it, be a good citizen. Stay in touch and let them know, because I think we're finding out. You know, sitting back and waiting for other people to do it, it's just not happening. We got to do it ourselves. We got to act. Can't count on the politicians. You know, there are some good politicians, but we can't count on the 4 or 5 or the 10 or 15 ones we trust handling everything. We got to really, you know, make sure we're in touch too, and we're voting. Okay, I'm gonna hold lower. There you go. Am I a genius? Don't answer that. That's what you have to do. You just have to. It doesn't take as much time with a 44 or something, or that 1911. I can figure it out maybe within one magazine. But with this, it's one magazine of 8 rounds. With this, is 30 minutes for me. And I have no idea how long we've gone, so I'll take another shot and maybe let you see that. Anything else about that? Well, happy Halloween, by the way. I keep forgetting it is Halloween. If that's something to be happy about. Halloween's, I've always liked Halloween. Some people get bent out of shape over Halloween and a lot of things like that, and for different reasons. Some people just think it's silly. Some people think it's a pagan holiday. And maybe it started out that way. I don't know. There's so many things we do as a culture and society, and I make people mad talking about this, but things, there is a truth about what things are, of course, how they came about, but a lot of people often don't even know what that is, don't care. You know, it's hundreds of years ago or something, and they just think like Halloween's a good example. It doesn't matter how it started. People enjoy just dressing up and going out and trick-or-treating and putting scary stuff in their yard and all that. Yeah, it's irrelevant what it means to some people. There may be people sitting around right now, this is their month. They're worshiping, you know, the Satan or something, you know. The gods of Halloween, I don't know, whatever turns them on. But for most people, it's just a fun holiday, and pumpkins, and it also occurs during the beautiful time of the year. I think that makes a difference, you know. The colors and everything are out. You know. It's like that. It's like all the holidays. Whatever you celebrate, and wherever you celebrate it, you're not hurting me, so have at it, right? Okay, so, but it is Halloween, so be careful. I'm gonna keep an eye on my cats. They're liable to be possessed or something. Okay, they already are possessed. All right. I wish I had a target a little bit further away. Okay. I'm gonna shoot this plate again here and make sure I know where to hold. Okay. I'm gonna hold kind of on the lower right part. I want a clear hit that I can see and not hit one of the other hits. All right, I'm gonna try this. Man, I can't breathe. Okay, I think I hit it on the bottom. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's kind of tricky with this one. This is the one. It shoots fine. Just had to figure out where to hold. And there's nothing really wrong with it. They're just a lot of the rifles, military rifles and things, were designed for, you know, like the shortest range at 100 yards or something. And so that means if you're shooting closer, it's going to shoot high. I've shot several guns and got a few military surplus guns that, which is one of the Mosins maybe. There's some of them, they're just hard to shoot. You got to get down, take such a fine sight, and hold low for that reason. If you're shooting at something like most of the ranges I have at you know, like 70, 80 yards, because they're not really designed for short range on those sights like that. But then again, a lot of guns, if the lowest sight setting is 100 yards, it works out pretty well. I can sight this one fine enough to do okay with it. The Springfield 1861, when it's set on the 100-yard setting, it's right on. I mean, it's just pretty much right on. I have no trouble, you know, hitting with it at all. And so guns are just different. You have to know, you know, where to hold, don't you? So this is cool. Again, some of you may have no interest in this. You may have tuned out a long time ago and you're not even watching right now. So I want to talk to you all, since you're not watching, that you're missing out on a lot of fun, a lot of history, and, you know, interesting stuff. And I don't know everything about all the guns that were used and the muskets and all that kind of thing. The way I do firearms is, I guess, the way I do a lot of things. And I'm interested, as you know, in a lot of firearms, different types, but I focus more on the more common firearms. But there's a lot of those in any category, right? Like if you wanted me to talk to me about Winchester rifles, for example, okay, I would talk about the 5 or 6 main Winchester rifles. You know, the 1866, 73, maybe the 76 even, but the 86, and 92, 94, whatever, you know, and the 95, you know, and then that, or lever guns might be a better way to state that. What were the top 6 or 8, you know, lever guns ever made, or of the 19th century or whatever? Well, I know the main ones, but there were others that were out there. Drawing a blank on the name now, but there are others besides Marlin or Winchester, just like single actions and guns that were carried in the Civil War. Well, this one in the 1861 Springfield were the predominant, you know, rifle muskets of that war, especially after a couple of years. Now, the first couple of years they're using all kinds of things, earlier models, flintlocks, smooth bores, and all that, and I know about some of those, but the main ones, there's probably, you know, I know a little bit about the Charleville, the 1840, the 1816, the 1842. I've got an 1841 Mississippi rifle, but there were others, and I really couldn't tell you about. But so I start with the most common that most people carried, or most people used in any category, because that's why they're interesting to me. Because that's, you know, if I want to know what it was like to shoot a firearm from 1860s, then why would I not want to first experience the most common rifles? And that would be this one and the 1861. You know, they were used by the most soldiers. If I had a great grandfather that fought in the Civil War, and I'm curious what it was like, you know, to shoot. I hadn't even shot a muzzle loader in my life or something. Well, a good chance he carried this or an 1861. I would shoot this and I would have a feel for what his experience was probably. He may have had something different, but you know, he probably at some point, you know, had one of these too. Yeah. So that's kind of my approach to it. You can't know everything. I can't know everything. There are a lot of, but the beauty of YouTube and of course all the history books, there's lots of information on all of them. And so if you have an interest, but I think it's easy to become overwhelmed. Maybe that's part of my point, I avoid being overwhelmed by all the different guns and all that. It's not as overwhelming once you get into a certain area and then you figure out what were the most common guns of that specific time period or that type that most people used. And to me, that's the most interesting, at least to start with. Now, there might be some design, there may be some musket that wasn't really successful. They ended up making, you know, just a couple thousand of them or whatever, and not many people carried them. They came about maybe as the war was ending, and then we went into cartridges. I don't know, there's probably something like that. And it would be interesting to know about all of that, just interesting, but not as interesting to me as you know, getting into the stuff that people carried, the things that people like a Colt single action, you know, the most common firearm. Although there were a lot of others, you know, the Smith and Wessons, the number 3s, and all those. And what's the? I'm trying to think of that I don't own, but. Not the Schofield, but Remington. Yeah, the Remington 1875. You know, it's not as appealing to me, but I know a certain number of people did carry those too. But anyway, I start with the most popular and then work my way into it, and become eventually more knowledgeable about all of them. And there's others of these I would kind of like to have. I got a little bit of a yen for an 1842, which was the last smoothbore that was issued. It was percussion. It's like this, basically, but it's a Springfield, though. And it was a smoothbore. Be interesting, you know, because it's percussion, and you know, trout some buck and ball, and you know, load some different things in that. And it's very historical. It was used in the Civil War a lot as well. So anyway, interesting area, interesting guns, and if you, as I've said many times, if all you like are black rifles, then you know you're missing out on a lot of stuff. You know, you really are. So expand your horizons, and because if a goofball like me can have as much fun and enjoy an AR-15 or a Glock or an M&P as much as this, or this as much as those, or however you want to look at it, you know, you can too. A lot of it's just ignorance, just knowledge that we don't have. Like I've never enjoyed anything I didn't know at least a little bit about. So work on that education and branch out a little bit. Get you a Hawking rifle, or and I would encourage you to get you can get an inline and hunt or something, but muzzle loader. But if you really want to have fun and get into history, get you some kind, even if it's the cheapest one you could find, get you a Hawking rifle or a Civil War, one of these, reproduction, whatever. As I say in the videos about these, I found that out in Larry Hickerson's shop years ago down in Murfreesboro. I guess I was looking for a reproduction at that time. I think that was after my burglary in '97, and my Hawking had been taken before I had alarms and cameras and all that, back in my dumb old days. But it wasn't in the safe. But I was wanting to replace it with a reproduction Civil War rifle, one of these, which I have one. I have a reproduction of this, nice one. And that's what I was kind of shopping for. And I didn't know if he sold any of those down there or not, I think. But I always like going in that shop. And I got to look at on the wall. He had, it was one of these or a Springfield, and it was a real one. I think he hit the price on it was, at that time, it might have been like $1,400 or something, or $1,500. And even then, a reproduction was the better part of $1,000. It might have been $700 or $800 at that time. Now they're like 12 probably, or 13. Just a reproduction of one of these. And so I was a little surprised at that. I thought, wow, I couldn't afford to buy it at the time, but I was just surprised they weren't more. I thought, wow, is that real? That's a real one, you know? And I think I asked him if it was shootable, and he said, yeah, probably so. It was kind of rough, but it wasn't like a piece of junk or anything. And that really stuck with me. That really stuck with me. I couldn't afford one at that time, but I never forgot that. And then when I could afford one, I got to shopping around, and yeah, so they're not crazy expensive. Okay, I think the general rule of thumb, probably, depending if it's a common one, like this or the 1861 Springfield, or maybe others, many others, to get one that's shootable and decent shape, you're probably looking at, this is a generalization, but maybe for about twice the money, you could get a real one, okay, that's shootable and not a piece of junk. So that's just kind of rule of thumb based on my experience looking around. It may be less. You may happen upon one that's, a reproduction is $1,200 or $1,300 if that's what they are now, and you might find one for like $1,800 that's a shooter and not that bad. I don't know. And a lot of people don't shoot them because they just don't. They don't want to, I don't know, damage them or take a chance or whatever, but I do. I clean them up and they're just like when I bought them. So I'm going to shut up. How long have I gone? Have y'all been keeping time? Well, I haven't. So this is fun. I mean, when I get into doing this, we did a video the other day with them, and I think I said that I literally could just do this for a couple of hours and talk to y'all about this stuff. And John's not here with a camera today, so I could end up doing that if I'm not careful. But there's just nothing like a good old historical muzzle loader. And I mean, you talked about guns that are like 50 or 60 years old, if they could only talk. This gun is, 159 years old. 159 years old, and was, no doubt used in the Civil War. So who knows what history this thing has. During the war, it may have been on the north side and the south. Some Yankees might have had it, some Confederates may have had it for a while because you had battlefield pickups and different things. And then even after the war, who knows, maybe it fed some family for 10 years, so meaning they used it to hunt game with, to survive. Okay, I keep forgetting I've got my relatives listening in Kentucky. Right now they're wondering, well, wait a minute, how's that gun feed a family? No, I'm just going to keep shooting a little bit, and I will see you next week, I hope. I appreciate y'all watching and coming around, and remember to check your subscription and all that sort of thing. And I don't know anything else. I don't know anything about John's trail. I hope you enjoyed the videos we posted, the Ranger, little North American Arms Ranger video, the Micro Draco, John gave a workout, the M60 pumpkin video. It's really sad. We're getting close to the end of pumpkin killing season. It makes me want to cry. But we tried to make the most of it. Hope you've seen the pumpkin carving this year, we do every year, and the pumpkin killing video we do every year. Those have been posted for a week or two. And we, of course, did a little pumpkin killing this week, right? So, y'all have a great week. We really appreciate you coming around, and we'll see you next week. Life is good.